people can't even visualize themselves in an independent situation. See, the life I live now, I've visualized it since I was little. So to me, it's not a surprise. To me, it's normal. But if you don't think it's possible, then it won't be possible.
Welcome to the Nick Speaks podcast, where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud for the disabled community. Tune in every Tuesday, and don't forget to subscribe. And now your host, Nicolas Comstock.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Nick Speaks podcast, a podcast dedicated to the disabled community, where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud about the things that matter to the disabled the most. I'm your host, Nick Comstock. You guys, I hope you enjoyed last week's monologue. I put a lot of work into it, so I hope you listened to it. And let me know what you think of that, because I know a lot of you love the monologues. But today, I have a wonderful guest who's been here twice before. I love it, I love it, I love it. Get ready. He's already throwing his hands up. We're going to talk about a bunch of shit today. My friend who's been here twice before, friend of the show, Wheelchair Philip. Help me welcome Wheelchair Philip to the show, also known as Philip Bramwell. Philip, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing excellent, Nick. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. I told Philip just before he came on air, I said he's looking sexy as AF. And so for those of you who are muscle ladies and all that stuff, Phil's in Tempe, Arizona, and he needs to get fucked like a lot of disabled people. So yeah. So we're gonna help you out. So
Thank you, Nick.
oh, no problem. As long as when you're on the road traveling with your comedy, and Phil's holding up his muscles right there saying he's ready to go. So y'all, there you go. I'll stop talking my enough so the camera can shoot on you. Okay. Phil, it's been so much fun. We talk probably, I would say, at least once a month or every other month. We do a pretty good job of staying in contact with each other. You and your mom have become some of my best friends from the show since I started it 2 years ago. I can't believe we're about to go in our third year here at Nick Speaks. I'm so excited. And when I asked you to come do the show again, you said, Nick, I want to talk about something. I want to talk about something a little bit different. I've talked a lot about employment for people with disabilities. And you said, Nick, I want to talk a lot about sheltered workshops. So that's where we're going to focus the attention today. And we're just going to talk about a bunch of other bullshit too. It's going to be a great hour. So buckle in. You're going to love it. So, Phil, you said you wanted to talk about sheltered workshops and employment or lack thereof for people with disabilities. So why don't you jump in a little bit with that?
So to start, I'll say I've never been in a sheltered workshop myself. But I feel I know a good deal about it. And should we start with what is a sheltered workshop? Maybe the audience doesn't know.
We probably should. Yeah. I know Ohio has done a lot of work to get people out of sheltered workshops. I'm in Ohio and you're in Arizona, so two different states. I know a lot of people have done a lot of work here in the state of Ohio to get people out of sheltered workshops into community employment. Of course, I don't know how they're doing so well in Ohio since they want to tell their people with disabilities that they're unemployable because of their disabilities, but that's another story for another day. So yeah, why don't you explain to people what sheltered workshops are? I think I have a pretty good idea, but you seem to have more of a good handle on it.
So sheltered work, or sheltered workshops, as they're referred to, are these programs where they hire people with severe intellectual disabilities to do various different types of um, physical labor type of work, and they're legally paid less than minimum wage to perform these tasks, and it's controversial if those kind of programs, the sheltered work, if it's ethical, if it's appropriate, and so on and so forth. So I'm guessing we're going to talk about that more.
Yeah, most definitely we're going to talk about that more. And one of the reasons we're going to talk about it is because I forgot that you mentioned you wanted to talk about sub minimum wage. And I had also looked into, it's kind of confusing between what the difference is between a day program and a sheltered workshop, because to me they kind of remind me of the same thing. Um to me, there's not much difference unless there's no pay at a day program at all, which is possible, because a day program is more like an adult daycare where you just sit and eat snacks all day and then take field trips to the Wendy's, field trips to the Wendy's down the street, and, you know, all kinds of stuff. And then a sheltered workshop, like you said, they do kind of mindless task. I think I went to a day program that had a sheltered workshop within it, and one of the project was, at the time, it was around the holiday time. They had a contract with Macy's to put the little felt pads in the jewelry boxes. And so I did a little bit of that when I was there, just checking it out to see if I want to go to it. Obviously, I didn't. But yeah, they get paid like pennies, like literal pennies to do that, which is very sad, because if you're going to have work in the title, then I believe they should get a working wage, even if it is a very small task.
Well, I think that it's controversial because, the reason sheltered work exists is because if those employees try to get competitive employment, like with the regular population, then they'll have to be able to perform at the same level as someone else for the same to earn the same amount of money as someone else. So that's where the controversy comes. Yes, they get paid less than minimum wage, but they get paid less than minimum wage with the understanding that they can make, 10 mistakes or work slower or things like that. Whereas
And
if you work in a
things
regular
don't
job,
matter, is what you're saying.
oh, say that again, please.
The mistakes don't matter, is what you're saying, when you're coming from a sheltered workshop.
Right, exactly. The mistakes don't matter. You can make 12 mistakes, 20 mistakes, and you get another chance, a million chances. But then in a regular job, in a regular employment setting, competitive, that there is no margin for error really. There is some, maybe I'm exaggerating too much, but there's not a lot of margin for error, to be honest.
Well, I don't think actually you are exaggerating at all, because usually if people make an error as a mistake the first time, but then they're retrained and they're told, okay, don't make this mistake again, here's what you can do to avoid it, and then they make that mistake a second or a third time, maybe not even a second time, they either get written up or get fired in the actual non-disabled workforce. So
Exactly. So that's where this debate really comes from. It's like, yes, they need a livable wage. But the reason they don't have a livable wage is because they can't do the same level of work.
because they don't have the same level of uh mental ability. I'm not even going to try to be smart and say a big word. um they don't
Exactly.
yeah, they don't have the same level of mental capacity as someone that is not in a sheltered workshop. And a lot of people, and I think especially here in Ohio, because I've um pointed it out last week that their slogan needs to change for the disabled workforce. And their slogan is that everyone is employable. And I don't believe that as a person with a disability. Um, I believe that everyone deserves a fair shot, but even with that, what does a fair shot look like? Um, So yeah, there's just a lot of, I mean, their whole thing is let's try to eliminate sheltered workshops and get everybody a job, and I think there is a place with a shelter, there is a place for a sheltered workshop. Now, whether or not these folks should be allowed minimum wage at the sheltered workshop, that's a totally different animal. What do you think about the sub minimum wage at these sheltered workshops? Do you think they should receive at least minimum wage at these sheltered workshops, or should it be different?
Well, if right now they can get sub minimum wage, but to me, if it's sub minimum wage, then you can't really call it work because
Right.
because the purpose of work is to make money. So then they deserve minimum wage in a sheltered workshop capacity. But then that's where it gets kind of stuck because what is actually the purpose of the sheltered work? Like paper shredding or machine oper I mean I'm not exactly familiar with what they do, but let's say it's something so simple and that doesn't really deserve a wage for a normal person. Like a normal person wouldn't get paid uh uh anything to shred a paper. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's where it's kind of a tough solution.
And I don't think a person without a disability would get paid just to put a little felt piece in the bottom of a jewelry box at Macy's. I mean, they might get paid for that, but there's other details to their job. They're not just doing that. But the day program that I went and looked at when I was back in Indiana, that's all they were doing. And everybody was like, oh, this is great. You get to make a little bit of money and you get to, and I'm like, yeah, nothing. You make hardly nothing. Um,
I think I think the issue starts way before the sheltered work or the work. The issue starts in education. Why did they not get proper a more proper education to have more skills, to have an opportunity for better quality of employment? You know, not to say that they're going to be doing pre-calculus or anything like that, but I feel that they can probably learn to a higher level than they're pushed to.
yeah, I would agree with that as well, Phil. And one of the things that I struggle with is I haven't had anybody on here from an education standpoint yet. To my knowledge, is that, I got a certificate of completion, which basically means nothing. And, employers don't accept that. And in my opinion, they shouldn't accept that if I didn't do any of the work. And I didn't do a lot of the work. So it's kind of really, it's just really difficult. Like you said, I mean, you know, I mean, it almost kind of, I know people are going to get mad at me and say, Nick, you're going back to the 1980s, but there kind of almost needs to be two separate classes um, of people with disabilities. Those who don't have the mental capability to understand what a full-time actual job is, and those who do have that mental capability. And the services, in my opinion, should dovetail. Do you agree or disagree? Because
Well, if someone is so impaired mentally that they can't work, then society has a responsibility to give them a livable wage, you know,
yeah,
with, as a handout. But obviously, that doesn't happen for them or anybody really. So that's like a bigger problem in society. If we say that somebody is truly unemployable, then society needs to pick up that that slack, I guess. But the issue is that I think it begins the problem is that in education, they're not really pushed that hard, and not that they could do pre-calculus, like I said, but like when you don't have skills, it becomes more difficult to get a job, not even if you're able-bodied.
yeah. I mean, honestly, I wasn't pushed that hard. I mean, I sat in a special ed classroom for the first couple years, 7 hours a day. And all I did was go on field trips and watch Reading Rainbow episodes, who, by the way, I still can't stand to this day. Um, but I have the whole song of the Reading Rainbow theme memorized because I've heard it so much. But I'm not gonna annoy my audience by singing it unless you want me to. I'll sing it for you, Phil. Unless
All right, let's hear it.
you want me to sing it for real.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, let me see what I can remember. I think I have the whole song remember. Well, no, I don't know if I'll have to pay for it because we're on YouTube, so I don't know if I can do that. But I can say the lyrics. I think it goes butterfly in the sky, I can fly twice as high. Um I can go I'm trying not to sing and get in trouble for copyright. It says it says I can go anywhere. Okay, never mind. I lied. I don't know the whole song, but I know a good majority of it. So, and LeVar Burton, I love you, but you're not my best friend. Um
Here. So can I know this is your show, but can I ask you a question about your experience?
yeah, absolutely. No, let's have a conversation, bro.
Do you acknowledge that you were not really pushed that hard
Yeah.
in your schooling? Did you enjoy not being pushed, or did you want people to push you harder? I
No,
find the theory. I know in hindsight you would want to get pushed, but like in at the moment, were you just enjoying the ride? Okay.
no, I didn't actually. I pushed every year to get out of that classroom because I felt like I was wasting my time. I I was really only there for personal care reasons. To be honest, even the student teachers that came in every year. I remember one. Her name was I can say her maiden name. Her name was Elizabeth Cook, and she was my favorite substitute teacher of all because the not substitute student teacher, sorry. Um she was my favorite student teacher of all because every Friday our special ed class would have breakfast together, and then the rest of them would go out to the playground and play. And for whatever reason, I got stuck with the student teacher, and we just worked on like color by number or reading or whatever. And I remember Elizabeth Cook telling me the first Friday that we spent together, she was like, because it was a private school ran by my church, and so I also knew Elizabeth outside of school because she went to my church. And she was like, Nick, I don't understand why you're here. Like, this is you, like, you need to be in class, doing project with other kids and all that stuff. And I really tried. Even my parents talked to me about going to the public school system, but even from what I hear, the public school system isn't much more that great when it comes to people with disabilities. So to answer your question, no, I didn't really enjoy that ride. I wanted because most of the people that were in that special ed class, I say all the time that I'm physically disabled but mentally enabled. Many of those folks were mostly mentally disabled. They have their physical capabilities, but they were mentally disabled. So a lot of them, they were being treated like a child because that's how they were mentally. And so I was really out of place. And I worked as hard as I could every year to get out of that classroom. So no, I didn't enjoy the ride. I mean, I will be honest, I enjoyed some of the field trips. Um, because uh a couple of the students, their dad owned like several Papa John's pizza stores in the area at the time. So we got to go to Papa John's every year. I did enjoy that. I will say that. I mean, to go to Papa John's every year and make your own pizzas and, get free pizza every year, that was fun. But to be honest, I haven't made a pizza on my own since I was in the 6th grade. So that didn't really help me very much.
Oh, it's not on your resume that you can know how to cook a
You
pizza.
know what? It should be. I can't do the dough tossing thing, but it should be.
You're a professional pizza eater.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Since they want to include everyone, maybe I could be included in that, be a professional pizza eater.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really tried to work with with the staff to try to push me as hard as they could. I remember doing history fairs and science fairs, just like all the other kids. But honestly, I feel like they gave me an A just to give me an A. I don't know if it was based off of my work or not. But yeah, that was a good question. I like that. Uh,
I know. I skip the BS. I just go for the for the real questions to the core.
Yeah, yeah, no, I appreciate that. And for those of you that are out there listening, if you ever want to ask me questions in the process of your interview, you can. This is an open conversation. Um, so let's talk a little bit because you just did you get part-time job or a full-time job or what did you
So right now I have 3 part-time jobs.
3 part-time jobs? Look at that, ladies. And
Yeah,
he doesn't live in his mom's basement.
absolutely not. I moved out when I was
You
20.
moved out. You moved out when? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, when I was 24. I moved out.
So how old are you now?
28.
Boom roasted. And they say crippled people can't do nothing. Oh my God. Look at that.
And lucky for the ladies, I have room for one more in my house.
Oh, wait. You already have a lady? Oh, wait. You say you have room for you and somebody else.
Yeah, I have room for me and one lucky lady if she wants to move to Tempe.
Okay. So you're not like polyamorous or anything like that.
Hey,
Okay.
hey, my morality is suspended. If we want to be polyamorous, that's fine with me.
Hey, Bill will take it. So if you're interested in being a little poly, which I'm selfish, if I have you, I want to keep you all to myself. Um, but hey, Phil's open for poly people, so there you go. But that's incredible. So tell me what your three part-time jobs are.
So my first job is I work at a basketball arena, the Phoenix Suns, and I scan tickets. And I do what's called guest services. And so it's basically helping the customers, the guests, with whatever they need assistance with. Then my other two part-time jobs, they're the same job, but they're for two different companies. I'm what's called a standardized patient. So that's where I act out a script given to me by the medical school, and it helps the medical students um, learn how to deal with patients better.
Oh, that's awesome. So from the two part-time jobs that you said are the same, do you get paid two different paychecks from two different companies, or is it one?
Yeah, yeah, it's separate pay because it's separate companies, but the job itself is the same.
Now you don't have to tell me about what your pay is, but is it decent for you, or
The standardized patient pays the highest hourly wage that I ever made uh in a regular job. Um Entertainment I've made more than I make at the standardized patient, but the hourly rate is good. The problem is with standardized patient is that you don't get enough hours. So the hourly rate is high, but then the hours are low.
well, I mean, yeah, that kind of sucks, but at least the hourly rate is good. So let me ask you, because this has been a lot of my problem too, but I know you're more physically mobile than I am. Oh,
Not much, not much. I just think
oh, really? Okay, then I don't feel bad at all. I thought you were less crippled than I was.
No,
Okay,
no, no. I just I'm a professional actor. I'm an entertainer, so I know how to swing it pretty good.
okay. Well, he knows how to swing it pretty good. Ladies, you may like that too. Um, so like, because I'm talking with you about my situation. I wear briefs and I need brief changes. When you're at these jobs, like how do you go to the bathroom safely and securely and all that?
Well, I'm able to transfer to the toilet as long as there's a bar on the toilet next to the toilet. Usually in public places, especially in education and at entertainment venues, it's easy to get a toilet with a bar on it. So I transfer myself. My issue at work, as it relates to the bathroom, is that usually our breaks are only like 5 to 15 minutes.
I know that's ridiculous.
So I use my whole bathroom, use my whole like lunch breaks, if you will, to use the bathroom. So I don't get like a real break, but the break is the bathroom, if you will. And
Oh my god.
and I'm not complaining. That's I understand that's part of the territory of being disabled at work, but it's just part of the process.
But yeah, I'm sorry I yawned. You're not boring. I'm tired. Um, so I want to ask you though, because you just said I'm not much different than you. At least you can transfer your ass, though. I can't even transfer my ass. So,
Yeah, the independent transfer does help. I'm not gonna lie.
are you able to? I mean, do you have to, when you get on planes and stuff? Do you have to? I'm going to talk to you about planes too, but I'm going to finish my question first. Um, when you get on planes and stuff, though, are you able to transfer into the aisle chair okay? Or
Well, for the aisle chair, I usually request a two-person lift, one on the legs and one on the arms. The reason I do that is because I can transfer into an aisle chair probably, but the problem is if I fall, the airline is gonna say I'm a liability and they won't get me off the floor. So to prevent that in the first place, I just let them lift me because you don't want to be on the floor unable to get up and people are just staring at you and shit.
Wait a minute. So if you decide to transfer yourself and you don't get a two-person, you're telling me that the airline would not help you up off the floor. They would just kind of leave you there? What?
They would probably call a medic, but I mean that's I've just been through many different types of fall situations, and usually companies don't want to help you because they say it's a lot. A lot
Oh, okay. So they wouldn't leave you. Well, they would leave you there long enough to call a medic, but they wouldn't do it themselves. Okay.
yeah,
Got it.
they just convert it to a non-emergency medical thing, but it's still I don't like that extra. I'm not a fan of that extra step, and I feel like anybody should be able to help me, especially with my level of communication and my experience with my disability. We don't need a freaking medic and freaking six guys to come over and get my ass off the floor.
I mean, I would like six guys to come pick up my ass off the floor, but I mean,
Hey, if there are six guys out there that want to pick Nick's ass off the floor, he's in Columbus, Ohio.
yes, I am. I'll come. I'll fall on purpose.
All right, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll fall on purpose, but I want to make sure not to hurt myself. Um, so I wanted to ask you another question about planes because I believe it is United Airlines or another airline is working on getting uh people to be able to stay in their wheelchairs on the plane. Would you ever fly in your wheelchair on a plane?
So I think having the option to stay in your wheelchair is a good thing because some people they don't have the option to transfer for one reason or the other.
Right.
But for me, I would want to transfer to the plane seat. And the only reason I say that is because if you're in the wheelchair, there's no head support. So unless you have your own head support built in, so then your neck is flopping all over the place, and that's
Well,
dangerous in itself.
yeah, I have for those that are watching, I have a headrest that I use. But I was just talking to my primary caregiver about this the other day, Phil, and I was like, you know what? I don't know if I want to be in my wheelchair on a plane. Like, I get that it would be, I think I would rather transfer to the plane seat and sit on my chair cushion because if for whatever reason, the weird shit that's going on in airports these days, if for whatever reason that plane goes down, I don't want the wheelchair going down and crushing me too. But then again, I guess if the plane goes down, we're fucked anyway. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but I would say that disabled people are safer on a plane than in a paratransit vehicle.
Oh, oh, most yeah. So, how long have you been doing these three jobs, and do you think they treat you well as like employers? I know you're not gonna bash them because you're online. Well, you wouldn't bash them anyway, but
I'm pleased with how all those good employers treat me. Two of those jobs only started like recently, like, within the last 3 months, and one of them I've worked there since 2023, but I don't get that many shifts. Probably about two a month.
okay. So, is there a reason that you're only doing part-time work as opposed to getting a full-time job?
Well, all those jobs, they only hire part-time. Of course, I'm always looking for full-time work, but um, you know, people aren't exactly feeling me right now, so I got to keep working on that.
Okay. Yeah. Do you feel like in your places of employment that you're, because one thing that I had issue with is I volunteered for like a year at my Christian school as an executive assistant to the superintendents, and I felt like I was treated more like a student as opposed to somebody who was a part of the team. I felt like they treated me like a little kid because, oh, there's Nick, we've known him forever. Do you feel like a part of the team at these jobs that you work at? I mean, or do you ever feel like you're slighted in any way?
I feel like I'm treated very fairly in all three of those jobs that I mentioned. I think partially that can be because, you know, I'm not the same person I was when I was in school. Probably if I tried to get a job at the schools I went to when I was a kid, probably I wouldn't get treated with that same dignity. But now that I'm kind of separated from school, I think it's easier to get treated with dignity for some reason.
Yeah, because they don't know you outside of, they haven't grown up with you, so they don't, there's not that familiarity there. And I want to ask you something that somebody said interesting to me on one of my previous episodes is that they believe that one of the reasons 80% of people with disabilities are unemployed, excuse me, is because that if an employer hires them, they said they feel like they can't fire them or they legally can't fire them. But they should be able to legally fire them if they're not doing their job. But this guy was telling me, well, the person can just say, well, you knew I had a disability when you hired me. So they said
Well,
they could kind of use that as a get out of jail free card. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't agree with that as the reason why employers at large don't hire people with disabilities. Because if
You
you're,
don't agree with that?
I do not agree.
Oh, you don't agree. Okay, good. Okay, I want to, okay, go ahead.
I don't agree because let's say you're disabled and you're hired in a job and you're really not doing the job properly. th- Actually, let me backtrack. So and I can say this because I'm experienced. So I have a college degree and all my jobs have been what's called competitive employment. So I was doing the same job as an able-bodied person.
Sure.
So pretty much when you're at work, now this is controversial what I'm going to say, but it's true. When you're at work, pretty much you're not disabled.
Yeah,
You have
I
to,
think that's the way it should be. Yeah.
you're, for better or worse, you're forced to perform at the same level as an able-bodied person, even with your disadvantages or your perceived disadvantages. So, so with that said, if you're in a job and you're not doing well, they're still gonna fire you because you're just a normal person in their eyes. You know,
Yeah.
there's no such thing as a disability at work. That's the way that's the way I say it. And I know it sounds harsh or something, but it's just the truth of it.
Yeah. Well, so, and I don't want to put this guy's name out here because I didn't tell him I was going to use it, but he was one of my former guests and he was kind of insinuating that, um, a lot of people don't get hired that are disabled because once they get hired, they can't get fired
I
because,
I think the reason why employers are hesitant to hire disabled people is because they don't want to give accommodations. See, my philosophy when I look for work is I only look for work where I don't need accommodations. And and that's been pretty good. But when you ask for accommodations, and people will say, well, oh, it's covered in ADA, this, that, and the other. Yeah, I know on paper we're supposed to get accommodations, but do people want to give us accommodations? No. So you have to be able to do a job without the accommodations. And that's where the problem lies, is that if you need accommodations, it's going to be much more difficult to get a job.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. And you're so well spoken, and you don't have any issues with reading or vision or anything like that. At least I don't think you do. You haven't told me you did.
If I can't read, somebody can let me know, but I think I can read pretty.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they were bullshitting, and maybe I really can't read, but people are just feeling bad for me, telling me I did a great job reading that when it was a bunch of false, but who knows?
Oh my god, I love it. So yeah, it's the whole thing about the accommodation. I never really thought about that too. And there's really no legal retribution if they don't give accommodations, is there?
I mean, you can get a lawyer, I guess, but then you have to convince a lawyer that your case is worth pursuing, and then you probably have to pay that lawyer, and you don't have money in the first place because that's why you were getting a job. And so I don't think there's any practical uh, recourse, and I don't think that's the right recourse regardless. Uh, I think the only option you have as a disabled person is to get a job that you don't need accommodations for, or to create your own job. That seems to be the only two options that I've noticed in my 10 years of being an adult.
Yeah, and which is what you and I have done. Well, you're Mr. Badass over here, have three part-time jobs, so I'm not even gonna put you in the same category as me. That's the that's the same thing I've done, is basically have created my own job, and that's why I'm here every week doing the podcast, and I'm on TikTok every other day, and I write blogs on Facebook and all that type of stuff, is because people have said, Nick, you have nothing to offer an employer. And what really irritates me about that, Phil, is that they didn't even they didn't even test my real skill sets. I mean, we've talked about this before. Putting pegs in a board the size of a grain of rice is not something I'm going to do 6 days out of 7. you know and we've talked a lot about voc rehab. Can you talk a little bit about that some more, and how you say they're not really trained to help people with disabilities, you know
Um, well, I used a disability job coach. I think it was paid for by Voc Rehab in New Jersey, where I used to live, and that was a disaster. I mean, they all they did was give me the links to Indeed and Monster, like the same links that I can look for myself and look for a job that way. And so they weren't doing anything that I couldn't do myself. But at the same time, maybe they help intellectual disability more than physical. In fact, I know that's the case because they always try to put you in a friggin' in the grocery store or some physical ass shit that you can't do, and so I think they just don't know what the hell they were doing. And and then one of my job coaches that I had in that experience was this 21-year-old. She was working for her father, and I was also 21 at the time. So it was this 21-year-old girl that can't get a job because she's working for her father, and trying to help me get a job. So we both look like 21-year-old fools trying to get a freaking job. It was absolutely ridiculous. Um, so I didn't find it particularly helpful.
did you try to take her out for a drink or dinner, Phil? I mean, you guys were the same age.
I never met her. It was only on phone calls, and she off the books. She told me what her goal was, She's trying to go to culinary school and open a restaurant. She was just in her father's business, to friggin' have a tide over. But the point is, a freaking unemployed college graduate trying to help another unemployed freaking college graduate is not the right method, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's really not. Um, so I mean, it seems like from what both of us are saying, I mean, getting back to these sheltered workshop, but I told you on our phone call that we did, I don't know much about them other than I spent a little bit of time in that one looking at it to see if I was going to go to it. You know, I mean, if you're not, I agree with you. If you're not going to pay these people that are in these day programs to do what you call work, which is really not work, then first of all, don't even pay them anything. And if you're gonna call these day programs work, then at least pay them a little something. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I used to live with roommates who would go to these day programs, and the one guy could actually work, you know, but he wanted to go to the day program and chew tobacco and sit there and eat all day. He didn't really want to do work, but when it came to wanting to spend money, he was always angry because he never had any money. Well, he didn't want to do work. So, I mean, and I think that's an issue with a lot of our disabled community. And I say this a lot because a lot of people in our disabled community bitch, Phil, about, oh, I want more money from the government, but I don't want them to tell me what to do with it. Well, that's kind of like living with your parents and saying, hey, pay all my bills, but don't tell me what to do. I mean, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I mean, we have to have an internal desire to have an independent life. As hard as it might seem, I think people can't even visualize themselves in an independent situation. See, the life I live now, I've visualized it since I was little. So to me, it's not a surprise. To me, it's normal. But if you don't think it's possible, then it won't be possible. And the part about work, I know people say, well, it's hard to get a job, blah blah blah, but like government assistance is not enough. You literally cannot survive off of it. So
Yeah.
so the way I see it is we don't have a choice. We have to go look for a job, even if it's difficult, or we have to create our own job. Most of us, most of us, if I'm honest, Nick, most of us are not gonna get a job. Most of us need to create our own job because you can't force somebody to hire you or date you or anything really. Just we have to just hope for the best, really.
Yeah. You know what? I just thought of something. They got rid of all these DEI programs. They need DEI for dating. People,
Yeah, but you don't want to be a DEI. You actually want somebody to want you because they want you.
yeah,
So
I know, but I just thought it would be kind of interesting. You know,
even because I've mulled over this, all aspects of DEI is harmful to society. Like you want somebody to genuinely desire you in work, in dating, in anything, not just to check a box. That's how I feel about it.
well, and for me, I mean, I do a lot of, and don't freak out, Social Security or Medicaid. I'm not hiding anything from you. Um, I do a lot of contract work, which I've been low on. I haven't had any public speaking gigs yet this year. Well, that's not true. I've had some, but it's been very sporadic. And the whole thing, I mean, like for example, okay, so say someone like me or you tries to get a job and we try to get ahead of ourselves, okay? So Social Security says, well, you have to report the first $65 out of Social Security. Well, why? Because then that's going to mess up our entire.
Yeah, so my answer to that is you need to work so that you don't need Social Security, so you don't have to deal with all that bullshit.
Yeah. But I can understand if they said, okay, report the first, like, I don't know, report the first 500 because Bill, you don't even have to pay taxes on something um until it gets to $600. So why are they making people on Social Security who make $65 out of Social Security outside of Social Security report that? That's ridiculous. I mean, what say you about that?
I mean, the reality is like if you're on a program, then they can do what the hell they want. So my thing is we got to make so much money that we don't need that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a question for you about, and we're talking about a lot of different things today. We're not really sticking with um sheltered workshops like we had planned. We're talking a lot about different things today. And one of the things I want to talk to you about is uh so what I mean, do you have an Able account? Because a lot of people tell me, oh, get an Able account so you can save more money.
I used to have one, but I don't um I don't really see a purpose for it, especially because yeah, you can save more money, but most people don't have any money. See, well, what's the purpose of a savings account that you don't have any money to put in there, right? So
When you make barely $1,000 a month, I mean, putting that into another saving account is basically like having another bill. And so it's very
yeah,
hard.
and then your money gets locked up where you have to ask for permission to use your own money. It's bullshit.
Yeah, and it takes 1 to 3 business days to get the money. And then they don't even have an app. And now Social Security and Medicaid, at least it's been my experience, that they ask about that every year. Nick, do you have an Able account? And my answer is no, because I haven't had one since they first opened it. I had one for like several, maybe 2 or 3 months when I first moved out on my own, and I was like, this is crazy. I mean, ridiculous. So, I know it's getting time to where we have to wrap things up. But I wanted to thank you for being here. And is there anything else that you want to mention to our audience before we hang up today?
Thank you for having me, Nick. If everyone could follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, I'm at Wheelchair Philip, and I have lots of comedy content on there. Um, Comedy is my one of my sources of income in addition to those three jobs. So I need to, promote that, please.
Yeah, and ladies, honestly, I mean, you're not going to find a man that's able-bodied that has 3 part-time jobs. I mean, these assholes. Well, I want a full-time job, but it's only part-time, and I don't want to have to work 3 jobs. You know what? I don't want to hear how difficult it is to get a job again, because if this guy who's one of my best friends can find a way to get 3 part-time jobs, there is no excuse for anybody that's out there able-bodied that's able to take care of themselves on a daily basis. There's just not. So stop saying the excuse of, well, there's no way I can get a job. Well, you've heard someone on my podcast today that has 3 part-time jobs, plus a disability, plus a bunch of other stuff that we could get into that you know, I mean, I know Phil off camera, and we go through hell as people with disabilities, but we don't let that stop us. And so I really don't want to hear another able bodied person say, there's no jobs out there. I can't get a job. Well, you've witnessed somebody that's not able bodied that has 3 part time jobs.
Yeah, it's just a matter of swallowing your pride sometimes. You might have to do a job that isn't your number one choice or isn't your favorite, but there's plenty of jobs.
Well, I don't like people who say, well, I don't want to do fast food because that's not like, dude, you get like free meals or at least discounted, and you can take the leftovers home at the end of the day. What the hell is your problem?
Oh, I've never worked fast food. If you see me at a Wendy's, I'm definitely a DEI employee because I'd be spilling the burgers everywhere, spilling the soda. I'm not good for physical jobs.
Well, I wouldn't be good either, but I think I could take the orders at the drive-through. But anyway, I love Wendy's and Taco Bell, so if I could get a free comp meal every day for work, and I'd be happy. But anyway, thank you so much, Phil. We'll put your information in the show notes. Listen, check Phil out everywhere on at Wheelchair Philip, and ladies, hey, email him, Mr. 3 part-time jobs over here. He likes muscle ladies. So if you're a muscle lady, I mean, hey, send a photo to Philip Bramwell. Show off those muscles. And like he said, he's got room for at least one, but he's willing to do a poly thing. So there you go. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for being here today. I am Nick Comstock. That's my cool, awesome ass guest, Philip Bramwell, Wheelchair Philip. Thanks for being here, Philip. We'll see you guys next week on the Nick Speaks podcast, the podcast dedicated to the disabled community, where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud about the issues that matter to the disabled the most. I'm your host, Nick Comstock. Take care, guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Nick Speaks podcast, where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud for the disabled community. If today's conversation resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a new episode. You can find Nick across all platforms by visiting his link tree in the show notes. And please leave a comment to join the conversation. Until next time, keep speaking up, keep speaking out, and keep speaking loud.